The shift. Discovering the freedom beyond thought. What if the voice in your head isn't you, but the cage you've unknowingly built? Could your greatest clarity come not from thinking harder, but from thinking less? The shift begins when the silence within grows louder than the noise around you. Once you stop talking to yourself, the shift happens. It's always there, isn't it, that voice in your head? It speaks to you the moment you wake up, telling you what kind of day you're in for. Even before you've brushed your teeth, it replays the mistakes from yesterday, fills your mind with worries about tomorrow, and criticizes every move you make in the present. It's constant, persistent, and honestly, it can be draining. But here's the truth, that voice, it isn't you. The cage of endless chatter. We are often taught that our thoughts define us, and that changing them will change our lives. But what if the real issue isn't the content of your thoughts, but the fact that you're always talking to yourself? This ongoing stream of words. The voice you assume is you isn't a helpful guide. It's more like a prison of judgments, worries, complaints, and comparisons. Picture sitting beside a perfectly still lake that reflects the sky. The moment you drop a pebble in the ripples, destroy that reflection. Your constant mental chatter is like that pebble. It stirs things up and leaves no room for calm, clarity, or joy. Eckhart Tolle describes it as the pain body, the part of us that grows stronger whenever we replay arguments, imagine worst-case scenarios, or harshly judge ourselves over time. We confuse this painful phantom self with our true identity. But consider this: if that inner voice is really you, then who is hearing it? Pause and notice the silence between your thoughts. You may sense a calm observer, something deeper than the chattering mind. That's your real self in Hindu tradition. It's called the Atman in Christian thought. It's likened to the still small voice of God, and in Taoism, it's the effortless flow of the Tao. Your mind resists this idea because it's addicted to its own noise. It swings back and forth between regrets about the past and anxieties about the future, never resting in the present. This constant back and forth causes much of our suffering. Sitting in traffic, you might feel angry or disrespected. Scrolling social media, you might feel jealous or inferior. Yet it's never the situation itself causing the stress. It's the story you invent about it. As A Course in Miracles reminds us, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. In other words, your thoughts about the world aren't the world itself. If you're fixated on shadows, you can't see the light behind them. The moment you take even a brief break from your internal dialogue, you discover something remarkable. You step out of the cage of endless chatter and into a vast and open awareness. There's no need to force your thoughts to stop fighting, only makes them louder. Instead, watch them come and go without attaching to them. As Rumi said, silence is the language of God, all else is poor translation. When you stop dropping pebbles into the lake, its stillness becomes clear. A fullness filled with deep, steady peace. You may feel resistance because that voice pretends it's vital for your survival, but the wiser presence inside you already knows how to live. Like the sun doesn't need instructions to rise, so sit with the questions. Who am I beyond this voice? Who am I? When my mind grows quiet, these questions aren't puzzles to solve, their experiences to explore in the stillness beneath the noise. When you look into a perfectly clear mirror, you see your true self. When the mirror is cracked, the reflection is broken. Which mirror would you rather gaze into? The mirror of stillness. Think of looking into a cracked mirror. The image you see is distorted, a faint shadow of reality. This is how the relentless voice in your head warps your view of yourself. It insists you aren't good enough, that you must prove yourself, or everything will crumble. Because it's so persistent, you've grown used to believing it. But who were you before you started following that voice? Recall a time in childhood when you were completely absorbed in what you were doing, running freely, drawing with crayons, or laughing until your tummy hurt. You weren't explaining these moments to yourself, you were just living them. That natural state stillness, simplicity, being fully present, is what your true self longs to return to in Buddhism. This is called sati, or mindfulness, being fully aware of the present without adding extra judgments or stories. When the Buddha sat under the Bodh tree and reached enlightenment, he didn't argue with his thoughts. He simply let them pass by like clouds crossing a vast sky. In today's world, finding silence can feel impossible. Phones buzz, inboxes burst, and everyone seems to need your attention. Even if you try to be still, your mind might start chattering louder than ever, leaving you tempted to give up. But notice how the more frantic your thoughts become, the more deeply they crave quiet. This search for stillness isn't a new fad. Thousands of years ago, Lao asked whether you could wait until muddy water settles and becomes clear, or remain still until the right move happens by itself. The lesson is simple. The more you chase clarity, the more it slips away. True. Stillness appears only when you let go of the chase. There's a story of a man who asked a monk to show him in enlightenment. The monk told him to sit beside a river and listen. After hours of hearing, "Just water," the man shouted. "This is pointless." The monk smiled and replied, "When you stop looking for meaning, you'll hear everything." Stillness isn't something you earn. It's something you remember. It has always been there beneath all the busy chatter. So how do you rediscover it when your mind won't keep quiet? Start by noticing the thoughts without wrestling them. Imagine you're watching a film in a cinema. You see the images on screen, but you're not in the story. You're the observer seated in the audience. It's the same with your thoughts. They appear in your mind, but they aren't you in Christianity. A similar practice is known as centering prayer, a silent meeting with God where words fall away and only presence remains. Mystics describe a peace that passes all understanding, which doesn't come from thinking more, but from letting go of the need to think constantly. If this feels daunting, remember you don't need to master it right away. Even a single moment of stillness, a deep breath, a small pause can start to loosen the grip of mental noise. Think of a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, the water never clears. Leave it alone, and the sediment settles, revealing clarity. The same applies to your mind. The more you battle your thoughts, the more stirred up they become. Let them be, and clarity emerges by itself. That clarity is where true transformation begins. In Hindu philosophy, the lotus flower symbolizes this idea. It grows in muddy water but remains clean and untouched. Likewise, your true self is never spoiled by the racket in your head. When you stop identifying with the voice, you find that inner purity. Again, the world stops being good or bad. It simply is. A tree is just a tree. A moment is just now. Your thoughts won't disappear forever. They'll still come and go like drifting clouds, but you won't cling to them anymore. At first, the absence of that constant inner commentary may feel strange because you've lived with it for so long. Yet as you explore the quiet, you'll discover it's filled with peace, aliveness, and true presence. In that stillness, you'll finally see yourself as you really are, not a fractured reflection made by your thoughts, but the stable awareness beneath them. This marks the start of genuine freedom. Your first step out of the cage, in that calm beyond the noise. You'll realize the shift you yearned for was never a prize to chase. It's been silently waiting for you all along. The voice in the void. There comes a moment in almost every spiritual journey where you realize the voice in your head has been taking up space it never deserved. It's like noticing an uninvited guest rummaging through your cupboards, making a mess and demanding attention. You pause and think, why am I allowing this? That realization marks the beginning of what some call the void, a state where that noisy inner voice no longer has the control it once did. Many people find the idea of this void scary. If you aren't the voice in your head, then who are you? What remains when the mental chatter stops? Yet the void isn't a bleak emptiness. Instead, it can be filled with what you've been searching for. Peace, clarity, and a deeper sense of belonging enticed philosophy. The void is seen as a womb of endless possibility, rather than a cold vacuum. One verse from the Ta Ching says we shape clay into a pot, but it's the emptiness inside that can hold whatever. We wish, in other words, the void is about creating space, so life can flow more freely in all its richness. Picture standing in a dense forest, where the thick canopy lets in hardly any sunlight. Your thoughts can feel the same way, so overgrown they block your inner awareness. But as soon as you begin to quiet that inner voice, you clear a small opening. The branches thin. Sunlight streams in. And for the first time, you truly see where you stand. This doesn't mean the voice disappears overnight. It's been around so long it feels oddly familiar, even if it's toxic. The key is not to fight it, but to stop feeding it. Arguing with it just gives it more strength in. Instead, treat it like faint radio static. It might be there, but you don't have to give it your attention. In the Bible, there's a story in which Elijah searches for God in a strong wind, an earthquake, and a roaring fire. Yet God arrives in a gentle, quiet voice. Perhaps that voice symbolizes the stillness beneath the mind's roar. Far from being dull or empty, that stillness is alive and intelligent, housing your intuition, creativity, and wisdom, all of which get buried when your mind won't stop talking. Once you tune into this deeper calm, you move through life differently. You're no longer forced to believe every thought that crosses your mind. Imagine walking through a busy market. Your thoughts might say, it's too loud here. People are judging me, I look ridiculous soon. You feel annoyed and disconnected. But if you observe these thoughts without getting sucked in, you start to notice the laughter around you, the scent of spices, and the many faces passing by. The mental noise fades and the vibrancy of the present moment comes alive. This is why so many spiritual paths encourage practices like meditation, prayer, or mindful movement. They don't simply settle your mind. They gently guide you into the void, reminding you that your thoughts aren't the boss in a Zen story. A young monk asks his master what enlightenment is. The master replies, when hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. The puzzled monk says, isn't that what everyone does? The master explains, no, most people think of 1,000 things while they eat, and when they're tired they keep themselves awake with worries. True, enlightenment is to simply be. Once you step into that simplicity, you'll find the fear your inner voice creates begins to shrink. Fear feeds on what if scenarios, on imagining how events might go badly in the void. There's no room for such stories. Only the present moment exists. And right now is always safe. Picture a bird perched on a branch. It doesn't worry whether the branch might break because it trusts its own wings. In the same way, the void teaches you to trust in your ability to respond to life instead of relying on certainty or control. This trust is what many traditions call surrender. It's not about losing or giving up. It's about going with life's natural flow, listening to that quieter part of you, and remembering you're much more than the voice in your head. When you catch a glimpse of this truth, everything feels lighter. Situations that used to agitate you lose their power. You might even find humor in the dramas your mind tries to create in their place. You discover a gentle joy and ease that was always inside you, hidden under the noise. This isn't a single life-changing moment. It's an ongoing journey into the void where your inner chatter loses its grip and you reconnect with the depth of life. The further you go, the clearer it becomes that the void isn't empty. It's a mirror of calm reflecting who you truly are. The heart beyond the noise. Have you ever been in a crowd yet felt completely alone? It's not the lack of people around you. It's the inner voice dragging you away from the present moment. This voice insists that something is wrong, that you must change, that nobody truly understands you. It ties you up in doubts, keeping you distant from others and from yourself. Behind this mental noise lies something vast and deeply human: the heart. The heart doesn't argue or create dramatic stories. It simply pulls you towards warmth and connection, appearing when you allow yourself to be fully present in some Hindu teachings. This heart-centered awareness is called Atma, the soul's link to the infinite. While your mind chatters endlessly, the heart stays calm and watchful, reminding you that you're already enough. This realization can be surprising if you've spent years measuring your worth by success status or other people's approval. Yet the heart sees past all that. Think of the biblical story of the prodigal son who comes home expecting judgment and finds acceptance. Instead, it's a lesson that your true value never disappears, no matter how far you think you've strayed. Trying to silence your inner voice by force only strengthens it. Instead, shift your focus. Picture yourself sitting by a campfire under a wide, starry sky. The flames are your thoughts, bright but small. When you stare at the fire, you miss the vastness overhead. Lift your gaze and suddenly the fire is just a flicker beneath the endless universe. The heart is like that night sky, always there. If you choose to look, two helpful ways to return to the heart are gratitude and compassion. Gratitude isn't about forcing yourself to be thankful. It comes naturally when you notice life's simple wonders, like sunlight on your face or a friend's laugh. As Rumi said, wear gratitude like a cloak, and it will feed every corner of your life. This kind of gratitude anchors you in the present where the heart quietly dwells. Compassion begins with how you speak to yourself. When your inner critic tells you that you're not good enough, respond kindly as you would to a frightened child. The more compassion you show yourself, the more you realize you are worthy and whole. Then it becomes easier to extend that compassion to others too. As you give more attention to the heart, life feels lighter. Fears about failing or what others think begin to lose their hold. You might even laugh at worries that once felt huge. Of course, problems will still come up, but you won't feel quite so overwhelmed. You can meet them with a calm steadiness instead of being swept away by anxious thoughts. Coming back to the heart isn't a one-time event. It's something you do over and over. Each time you notice you've wandered off in your mind, some days, the heart will seem bright and open. Other days, the mind's noise will dominate. Each time you bring your focus back, you strengthen your connection to the quiet stillness within. Over time, you'll see that this stillness in your heart is what you've been searching for all along. The heart invites you to step away from constant mental chatter and rest in your deeper truth. The more you choose it, the more you realize this isn't a distant dream. It happens in each breath, each moment, and each beat of your heart. Living the shift when that voice in your head suddenly quietens. It's not the end of your journey. It's the start of something new in that moment. You sense a calm presence beneath all your thoughts and realize you are more than the constant commentary running through your mind. But how do you live in this new understanding? Day by day, living the shift isn't about chasing perfection or banishing your thoughts forever. They will still appear, reminding you of old fears and doubts. What has changed is your perspective. You now see these thoughts as passing shadows, not as your true identity. There is an ancient teaching in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna advises acting without being attached to success or failure. In other words, live your life fully, but don't let your sense of worth rise or fall depending on the outcome. This frees you to respond to events calmly and openly, instead of feeling trapped by worry or expectations. A practical way to bring this shift into your daily life is to cultivate mindfulness. This means being fully present in whatever you are doing right now. If you are making a cup of tea, for instance, you notice the warmth of the mug, the aroma wafting up, and the taste of each sip. This simple act becomes rich and meaningful because you are truly there with it. Mindfulness invites you to discover the wonder in everyday moments, rather than racing through them on autopilot. Another way to embody the shift is through service. When your own mind is quieter, You start to notice other people's needs more clearly, and kindness flows naturally. As St. Francis of Assisi said, it is in giving that we receive by helping others. You see that the boundaries your mind once drew between you and them were not as solid as they seemed. You begin to feel part of a wider web of life rather than isolated or cut off living. The shift also involves making peace with uncertainty. The mind longs for certainty and control. But life is often unpredictable. The poet Rumi reminded us not to resist change because we never truly know which direction might lead to a richer experience. This doesn't mean you stop planning or dreaming, but you hold those plans lightly. You trust that if circumstances change, you have the flexibility and inner steadiness to adapt. Of course, moments of doubt will still arise. The old voice may say you're wasting your time, or that things were easier before. Each time you notice these doubts and choose not to dwell on them, you strengthen your connection to the calm awareness at your core. There is a Zen teaching that says you are perfect just as you are, and you could use a little improvement. This captures the paradox of living the shift. You already possess a deep wholeness, and yet there is always room to grow in kindness, peace, and presence. Over time, you'll see that the shift was never a single dramatic event. It came about through steady choices. Each time you remember to step back from racing thoughts and re-engage with the present moment. This leads to a kind of freedom, not from life's challenges, but within them. You discover you can face fear with courage and view setbacks as lessons in love or compassion, letting go of the old habit of seeing yourself as just. The voice connects you more closely with the energy and beauty of real life. Finally, remember that the shift isn't a goal you achieve. It's a way of being. As soon as you realize you are not just the voice in your head, but the calm presence that notices it, you see that you are the shift. You are that stillness, that sense of peace and lightness that appears whenever the mental chatter fades. You have in fact been this all along. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to explore this journey. If you found value in these ideas, feel free to subscribe for more content on living from a deeper sense of presence and ease. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching. The journey of inner stillness is not about escaping your mind. It's about returning to what's always been present beneath it. The shift is not a dramatic transformation, but a quiet return. A return to awareness, to clarity, and to the peace that was never missing, only overshadowed. In this space beyond thought, beyond inner chatter, you meet the real you, not the echo of a voice, but the presence that listens. This shift isn't a destination to reach, it's the home you remember. And every moment you choose presence over noise, you return to it more fully.